Welcome to the SimpleSoftware Training University video number 104, Operator Training, How to Scan and Index with SimpleIndex. In this video, we will go over how the operator will scan, navigate, index, and save in the SimpleIndex software. This will give you instructions and tips for the best and most efficient ways to use SimpleIndex as the user. The first step to opening SimpleIndex is either double-clicking the icon on the desktop or going to the Start menu, All Programs, and finding SimpleIndex. SimpleIndex will open with this icon, but it will not open a job configuration. So to open a job configuration, you click the Open Job button and you select the job configuration file that you'd like to run. The job configuration has all the settings for where you'd like to import the files from, where you'd like to save them to, and how you'd like to index and name those files. So we'll open the data entry job configuration, and to start the job we will click the Run Job button. Now this configuration is set to pull sample images from the input folder for this particular job, which we'll be pulling from here, and it will be pulling the sample images in. You can also set this to run the scanner that you have set up, either ISIS or Twain scanner directly, and when you hit the Run Job button it will start the scanner scanning. Then when the scanner is empty, it will ask you if you'd like to scan more pages, and if you load up the scanner and hit yes, it will proceed to scan more pages in the batch, or if you hit no, it will just use the pages that you've scanned so far. Now a batch is a group of pages that you're processing at one time within SimpleIndex. Now the viewer we currently have open is the SimpleView Viewer, but we're going to be demonstrating the PDF application, which is your default PDF application within the computer that you're running. Now that could be like Adobe Acrobat or any other type of PDF viewer or image viewer. Now the SimpleView gives you thumbnail views and allows you to float windows and more. So if you'd like to learn more about the SimpleView Viewer, you can check out Sim 130 or Sim 230 to find out more. Now in the PDF application, we'll see that we have the full image and we have our index fields to the right. Now these index fields are how you want to name the files that you want to save in the output folder, which is the designated folder where SimpleIndex will save the indexed images. So in a text field, we can type whatever text we want. So in this case, I'll type Simon Akers, which is the person's name. In this field, we can type whatever numbers we want. Now, we can only type numbers in this field, so I can type 8675048, but I can't type letters, otherwise it will show up red in the field and not allow me to save it. The date field allows me to type the date in whatever format I want. And then when I click off the field, it'll automatically convert the date to a predefined date format that we can set in the options. The template field allows you to type in a certain format, and in this we have an indication of what format it is. The A equals letters and the pound sign equals numbers. So this particular field will allow us to type 3 letters and 3 numbers. So I could type ABC 1, 2, 3, and then it will show up blue. But if I type in any other format, it will not allow me to save, and it will show up red. Now the list field is a drop-down field that allows me to pick from a drop-down for what I want. So I can pick the drop-down field and pick the specific type I want. It's also a typing field, so I can highlight the entire field, or if it's blank, you can just start typing, and if I type a D here, it will fill in the first thing in the list alphabetically. In this case, Document Giant. Or I can just pick the one that I want here. Now, I've filled in all the fields, and now I'm ready to move on to the next page. In this case, I don't use the document navigators. Instead, I hit the Save Index button, which applies the fields that I've typed to this particular page. So now that I hit Save Index, it moves on to the next page, and I can tell that I'm on file 2 of 7 here. And if I were to go back to this page, I'd see all these fields black, which means that those fields have been saved, whereas blue means that they've been carried forward from a previous page. So in this case, I have it carrying forward the text, numbers, date, and list fields, but not the template fields. If I want to use the same values on this page, then I can just hit Save Index, or if I want to change them, I can manually change them. Now in this particular template field, I've set it up so you can leave it blank so you don't have to fill it in. Whereas the rest of the fields, you do have to fill them in. Now I'll hit Save Index to move on to the next page. Now in the numbers field, for instance, if I type something that doesn't belong and I hit Save Index, you get a warning that says this value is not valid for number fields and you must correct it before you can proceed. Now for the date, you can also type the date in other formats, and it will still auto-convert it to a uniform date format. And I can keep moving on. Now these particular pages are supporting pages of the previous document before it, so we can keep on using those values. Now in this particular one, I missed the name, so I can change that and then resave the page and it will use the new name. Now the Save Index button is what applies the indexes to the page, but there's also shortcuts for most of the options within SimpleIndex. So for instance, for the Save Index button, I can hit Enter and that will move on, and that will click Save Index. And if you go up to the menus, you can see that all of the different processes for the most part have shortcuts. So for instance, Save is Control S. I can refresh our lists by clicking Control View. I can change the size of the pages with the shortcut keys and things like that. Now speaking of changing the size of the pages, I can use the mouse action key, zoom in, to zoom in on a particular part of the image, and that will zoom into the image. I can also change the zoom with these buttons here. But I generally find the page width to be the most useful of the buttons, which makes the image zoom into the width of the image. Now you can also do Handpan, which moves around on the image. So if you've zoomed in on the image, you can use the Handpan to move around. And when you use the zoom in mouse action, it automatically flips to Handpan so you can move around. So we'll switch back. Now with the indexing, we have manual indexing, but you can also do OCR to field, which is an ability to draw a box around the section that you want, and it will automatically fill it in. Now there's also some other options, such as annotate, which allows you to draw annotations on the page. You can draw lines, you can highlight things, you can draw straight lines, hollow boxes, filled boxes to black out information. You can put text directly on the page, or a sticky note, or even a rubber stamp that you pre-create. Now there's also cropping, which allows you to crop multiple sections of the page down. So for instance, I can crop this section and this section, and it will create two separate images with these crops, and only those images when I click Save Index. Now if I go back, we have two separate images with those indexes, and it's cropped down to those sections that we've cropped. Now there's also rotation capabilities, so you can rotate the page around as needed, or you can use the up arrow to automatically rotate it to the proper orientation based on the text that it finds on the page. There's also despeckle and deskew, which are buttons that clean up the image for despeckle or straighten the image for deskew. You can do blank page removal if you'd like. You can delete the image manually. It can also be set up to automatically remove blank pages. Now if you've done some annotations or something that you don't want on the page anymore, such as the rubber stamp, you can undo it with the undo button, and that will undo it. It also undoes the indexes that you've typed in, so be careful when you've clicked those. If I click Save Index again, it will carry forward the values from the previous page. There's also some right-click options where you can use all the capabilities that you find at the top here just by right-clicking. Also, you can go to the properties of the image if it's a TIFF file. Now certain fields are required, so if they're blank, then it will not allow you to move on. So for instance, this list field is blank, it's set to required, so I must fill it in to move on to the next page. Now there's also file and page navigators, so you can navigate around the document. But you have to be careful using these, because if the page hasn't been saved yet and you've typed in the values and you move on, it will lose those typed values unless you've hit Save Index. So move on. Now this particular page was a blank page, and it automatically shows up as deleted because it's been set to delete. So when I hit Save Index, and I'm on the last page, which I can tell, file 8 of 8, I hit Save Index. It says all files have been indexed. Would you like to release this batch? And when you do, it saves it to the output folder. So I can go to the output folder here by navigating it into Windows Explorer, or I can go to View Output Folder, and it will show me the output folder here. Now I have this particular one set up to create a folder based on the text field, and then use the rest of the index fields to name the file. But I can use any of the index fields to either name or create the folders, so you can have the person that set up your job configuration set that. So in this particular one, I'd left the date template blank, so now it has put the missing field value, which is by default is missing, but you can change that to a different word if you'd like. So the next configuration uses the same images that we've used plus some, only this configuration is going to read fields from the page automatically. So we'll go ahead and delete these pages from the output folder that we ran in the first configuration, as we won't be using them. But keep in mind, if you delete files from the output folder, they are gone. So make sure that if you're deleting the files from the output folder, that you have a backup of them if you need to save them. Now this time, instead of opening SimpleIndex from this SimpleIndex icon and clicking Open Job, instead we're going to run the job by clicking the SimpleIndex shortcut job configuration, which is like clicking the SimpleIndex icon, opening the job, and clicking Run Job all at once. So we'll click this, and it will start SimpleIndex running from the taskbar, and we see the percentage of processing at the bottom, and if you hover over it, that is. And when it's done, it will automatically pop up SimpleIndex and show you the first file that was processed. Again, we're going to switch to the PDF application viewer, and we see that it read the fields automatically using zonal OCR, which looks at certain spots on the page to find the information. Now, when you've done an automatic recognition and you want to check what was read, it's best to use the grid view, because with the grid view, you can see everything that was red and anything that shows up blank or red, which means that that page was a blank page and delete it. So that way you can quickly go through the images and see what was red and correct anything that needs it. Or if it's supporting pages, they'll show up blank, or if it didn't read a value, it will show up blank. So for these particular pages, they're supporting pages, so nothing will read from them because of the settings that we have set. But if you have a page that, say, is missing one of the fields, then you can quickly go to that field and fill it in, and you'll know that one of the fields is blank. And that can really speed up the indexing process. So then once you're done with all the indexing, clicking through the grid view, you can click Save All, and that's like hitting Save Index on every page very quickly. So this particular job says the account number is blank. So in this particular one, we don't have the carry forward feature checked, so it has to be filled in manually. So we'll actually want to go in and turn that on. You can do this yourself if you have the permissions, or you can get your administrator to do this. So we'll come in here and we'll turn on the forward checkbox. Now when we go back to the grid view and hit Save Index, it carries forward those values. Or if we hit Save All, it will automatically carry forward the values as well. And then it will give you the standard prompt, all files have been indexed, release this batch. So now when we hit yes, it will save to the output folder, and then we have this particular one set up to automatically pull up the output folder when it's complete. We can go into the folders where the account number is set up as the folder, and then also the order number is set up as a subfolder of that. And then we have the order number and the company name as the file name. That's the end of the Simple Software Training University video number 104, Operator Training, how to scan and index with SimpleIndex. In this video, we've seen how to run any scanning or importing configuration within SimpleIndex and how to navigate and index those images and save them to their final destination.